Hi, and welcome to our audiobook series brought to you by Burgapoly Publishing. Let the journey begin. Today we are presenting
Chapter 8. War brings freedom. Morning spilled over the treetops, casting golden light through the skeletal remains of the jungle mist. Within the compound, the prisoners stirred, shadows of their former selves, their movements sluggish from exhaustion, their minds still tethered to the weight of the previous night. John and Tom sat up as the first slivers of daylight stretched across the dirt floor. For a moment, all was still. The world held its breath. Then, the explosion. A single violent crack ruptured the morning calm. A man sprinted into view, his screams tearing through the camp like the shriek of a wounded animal. Every prisoner jolted upright, eyes wide, muscles tensed. They scrambled toward the wire mesh of their cage, their hands gripping the metal, their gazes fixed on the unfolding chaos beyond. Floating just behind the fleeing man, a metallic sphere, smooth, featureless, save for a single dark lens, hovered with quiet precision. It was no larger than a basketball, yet it exuded an eerie, mechanical patience, as though toying with its prey. A burst of light, then another. 3 quick flashes and the man stumbled, his body contorting before crashing into the earth. He rolled once, twice, and then was still. Smoke curled from the small holes burned into his back. Tom's breath caught in his throat. He turned, his face pale. "Did you see that?" John remained locked on the unmoving body, his expression unreadable, his fingers tightened around the wire mesh. "Yeah," he murmured. "This can't be good." Tom exhaled sharply. "How can things get any worse than they already are?" John didn't answer. His eyes flicked toward the hovering sphere as it pivoted, scanning. "Look," he whispered, voice barely audible. "It's coming this way." A ripple of fear passed through the boys in the cage. John's voice dropped even lower. "Everyone, on the ground. Now stay as still as you can." No hesitation. The prisoners dropped, pressing themselves against the dirt, hearts pounding. The pod glided forward, humming faintly, stopping just outside the cage. A cold, unnatural stillness settled over them. The sphere rotated, scanning the huddled figures on the other side of the wire. A thin, oscillating whine filled the air, a frequency that set teeth on edge. John squeezed his eyes shut. "Move along. Move along." The pod lingered. Then after a long, agonizing pause, it pivoted. A collective breath shuddered through the cage as the sphere drifted away. Then, movement. 2 men emerged from a nearby structure, weapons raised, their postures rigid with fear. They fired, panicked, erratic. The pod spun, shifting its aim. The first man barely had time to react before the rapid succession of energy pulses struck him, sending him tumbling backward. His body hit the ground, motionless. The second man fired again, one desperate, precise shot. The pod erupted in flames. But before the man could celebrate his victory, 2 more spheres materialized from the haze, moving fast. He turned, eyes wide. The first few shots missed. The man dodged, rolling and scrambling. But the next burst found its mark. He collapsed, his body twitching, before going limp. The pods hovered in silence as if confirming their kill. Then methodically, they turned and continued their slow, predatory advance through the camp. Inside the cage, the boys remained frozen, their breath coming in short, shallow bursts. One of them turned to John. "How did you know that would work?" John exhaled slowly, his muscles still tense. "I didn't," he admitted, "but it made the most sense." Dave let out a quiet chuckle, shaking his head. "Glad you were right." Beyond the cage, the battle raged on. The acrid and thick smoke curled through the compound, seeping through the wire mesh. The sounds of combat, shouts, screams, the piercing shriek of energy weapons swept across the encampment. Then, silence. 30 long minutes of stillness. John lay motionless, eyes fixed on the sky, waiting. Then movement again. 3 pods drifted back across the compound, scanning, searching. They moved with clinical detachment, as if performing a final sweep before their unseen masters deemed their task complete. They passed, disappeared, and still the prisoners did not move. Not yet. Another 30 minutes of silence, broken only by the whisper of the jungle reclaiming itself. The chirps of unseen creatures returned hesitantly, testing the air. Then, soft footsteps. John turned his head sharply. Chi! She moved quickly, her form a blur in the shifting light, 3 other girls trailing behind her. John sat up, his pulse surging. Around him the others stirred, hope flickering in their hollowed-out gazes. They scrambled toward the cage door, gripping the metal bars. Chi reached them, eyes scanning the lock, her breath uneven. John exhaled. For the first time since waking, he allowed himself to believe. Tom's voice carried across the clearing, a frayed thread of relief woven through his words. I sure am glad to see you, he breathed, pressing against the cage door as Chi reached them. Hey, John! Chi's here! John pushed through the cluster of prisoners, their thin bodies tense with the hope of escape. The wire mesh had been their horizon for too long, the air inside stale with captivity. He met Chi at the door, his voice urgent. Are you okay? How did you get out? Chi exhaled, her chest rising and falling as though she were still running. Those things shot up the house we were in. We barely got away. She held up a ring of keys, the metal glinting in the morning light. I took these off one of the men. After he got shot, I wasn't even sure if they'd work. Her voice wavered, but she steadied herself. I didn't think I'd be rescuing you two. Her fingers trembled slightly as she fumbled with the lock. Metal scraped against metal, a hesitation, then a click. The door swung open. The surge of bodies was immediate. The boys pressed forward, their desperation unchecked, nearly knocking Chi to the ground in their rush. John caught her, steadying her before she could fall. Are you okay? Chi let out a breathless, half laugh, half sob. Yeah, I'm okay. Tears slipped down her face, but she didn't care. The relief was overwhelming. John glanced past her, scanning the compound. Are those things still around? Chi wiped her face, turning to look. The wreckage of the camp lay before them, eerily silent in the wake of destruction. Smoke curled into the sky, the ghosts of battle still lingering. We haven't seen them for a while, she admitted. That's why we came out, to check if you were still alive. John nodded. You saved us. Thank you. Tom let out a shaky laugh and clapped Chi on the back. Yeah, thanks. I thought we were done for. Chi gave him a weary smile. So did I. John straightened, his mind already shifting to their next problem. We need to find a way out of here. If there are any vehicles left, we can use them. We'd better hurry, came a voice behind them. They turned to see Dave. His face was grim. Why? John asked, his stomach already knotting. Dave lifted a hand and pointed toward the shattered fence at the edge of the compound. Because with that gate gone, there's nothing stopping the dinosaurs from coming in. Silence, then, at once. Dinosaurs? Chi, John, and Tom echoed. Dave nodded. Yeah. When they captured me, some dinosaurs attacked. We barely got away. One of the men told me that these jungles belong to them. His voice was low now, almost reverent, as if speaking too loudly would conjure the creatures from the shadows. Look at the cage. They built it to keep out the flying ones. John's eyes flicked back to the ruined perimeter. The jagged remnants of the gate gaped open like broken teeth, the dense jungle beyond stretching into unknowable depths. All right, he said. We definitely need to find a way out. Fast? Dave nodded toward the far end of the compound, 5 buildings down. I'll take a group and check over there. John pointed in the opposite direction. We'll search this way. Their group split, moving quickly, their steps muted against the ashen ground. The ruins of the camp stretched around them, hastily built wooden structures, now scarred by battle, their walls sagging under the weight of violence. They passed the wreckage of the front gate. It wasn't just open, it was gone. Chi knelt, picking up a splintered piece of wood. She turned it over in her fingers before tossing it aside. This isn't something we can just fix. No, John agreed, kicking at the smoldering rubble. It's done. Tom took a few steps past the opening, squinting into the distance. There's a path here, he said, his voice strangely subdued. Not much else. No dinosaurs. I wouldn't wander too far, John warned. His gaze flickered toward the tree line. its depths unreadable. We don't know what's waiting out there. They moved on. One of the buildings still smoldered, the fire crackling softly in the morning air. Chi gestured toward it. That's where we were. Tom barely acknowledged her. His focus had shifted. There, by the fence. He pointed. John followed his gaze. Vehicles, 2 of them. They approached quickly, hope sparking, then dimming just as fast. Smoke curled from the ruined cars. The metal was scorched, riddled with burned holes. Tom exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. Damn it. John knelt beside one, touching the ruined surface. The heat had faded, but the damage was unmistakable. They're useless, he muttered. Chi crossed her arms, glancing back toward the jungle. Tom followed her gaze. For the first time, he didn't make a joke. No one did. Because beyond the broken walls of the compound, hidden in the vast, waiting wilderness, the jungle was watching, and something inside it was hungry. Chi took a cautious step forward, her gaze fixed on the smoke curling from the ruined vehicles. The scent of burnt metal lingered in the air, acrid and final. Then, movement overhead. Look! Chi pointed. 2 vehicles descended through the clearing smoke. One was a small transport, the other, the box truck, the same one that had brought them to this place of captivity. Good, Tom breathed, then his voice rising. Now we can get out of this mess. He didn't wait. He ran, his desperation spilling out in frantic energy. Come on, let's go. The smaller transport settled onto the ground, its doors swinging open as Dave and 3 others hurried out. But the box truck hesitated. It hovered in place for a fraction too long. Then, without warning, it lifted again. Tom stopped mid-stride, blinking. Hey, where are you going? The truck shot toward the open gate. The group ran after it, confusion turning to alarm. Hey, Tom shouted, waving his arms. We need that ride. The truck didn't stop. It didn't even slow. They skidded to a halt halfway to the broken gate, watching as the vehicle lifted above the treetops. Then, the jungle lit up. Bright flashes from the undergrowth. Energy bursts, precise, lethal. Then, detonation. The truck erupted into a blinding fireball. The explosion swallowed it whole, sending a shockwave rippling through the canopy. Wreckage rained down in molten fragments, disappearing into the jungle's maw. Silence. They stood frozen, staring at the rising column of smoke. Tom's voice was quiet, stunned. Why did they take off like that? We could have fit in there. John's hands were fists at his sides. I don't know, he said, voice hollow. His eyes remained locked on the jungle. But it's a damn good thing we weren't with them.
Thanks for listening to Chapter 8 of Into the 6th Millennium, The Invasion of Zephro. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss future audiobooks. You'll find links below to get the book, explore more titles from the series, and grab official merch. We've also included some affiliate links to the tools we use to bring this project to life.